In the Matthews broadcast on www.gemstv.net, where we have big cable on the run, television the way you want it, thoughts and ideas that you want, wisdom directly to you in the manner that it should be given, and thinking outside of the box that you'll get nowhere else other than here on Gems TV, where we connect urban New Jersey with the thinkers, with the entrepreneurs, with the professionals they need to both succeed. So we have just such a pair of thinkers, just such a pair of wise men. No offense, wise women in the audience. I want to make sure I clear myself. Who are going to drop some science, so as Bob Marley would say, we don't understand, we are going to overstand together.
Yeah, man.
This evening, here in the Matthews broadcast. Big thoughts, big dreams, big realities will be talked about, shared tonight. So as you know, here in the Matthews broadcast, we stream live over gemstv.net and the Matthews broadcast Facebook page. So if you're tuned into the Matthews Facebook page right now or to Gems TV, you can send me a comment or you can ask a question by calling us on the live line at 973-910-3331. 973-910-3331. We begin this evening the way that we begin all of our broadcasts, in a place of gratitude. Gratitude is the place that you have to be. If you're not in the place of thank you, you're not in the place of being able to receive anything. So we begin this evening thanking you, the greatest audience in the world, for your thoughts, for your ideas, for your communication by text, by email, by messenger, in all the means that you communicate with us. We want you to know that beginning on Sunday evening, this coming Sunday evening at 7 p.m., we will be having a live preview of all of the upcoming week's shows, all of the upcoming week activities with the Matthews broadcast and the Inner Circle Network. So myself and our wellness coach, Sister Samut Scott, will be live on 7 p.m. On the Matthews Facebook page every Sunday night, giving you the lineup and what you have looking forward to for the upcoming week. So we want to emphasize the foundations of this broadcast. There are four, and we hang on to these four because they work in perfect alignment in our worldview. First and foremost is that you must be divinely aligned. Right? The book of the beginnings, Genesis, says that you were born in the image and likeness of the Creator himself. Whether you be male or female, you must be divinely aligned with the source of who you are. The second principle is upliftment, divine upliftment. Here we hear again the scripture saying in the book of Timothy, I have not given you a spirit of fear, but of love, power, and a strong mind. You are far more powerful than you will ever know. You are a divine being having a physical experience. And so in having this physical experience, you should have it in a manner that's a blessing to everyone else. Third principle, the principle of upliftment. And that here we go to our poet laureate, the one and only Maya Angelou, who taught us that people may forget what you said, they may forget what you did, but they will never ever forget how you made them feel. So make an investment today to treat someone else like the king or queen that she is. Your candle loses nothing when it lights another. We have before us two gentlemen that are going to share with you their journey and how much they have sacrificed, how much they have given to create a reality that they probably won't even know all the people who will be blessed from it, will certainly never meet them, and certainly will not know their names. Yes, they made that walk. So, as we think about those who serve in our armed forces here in the United States of America, there are people in distant lands all over this world that are defending your right. We talk about freedom of speech, freedom to congregate, freedom of religion. What would those freedoms be if you didn't have people like the men sitting in the room with me who are willing to put their life on the line from it? As Jack Nicholson famously said in the movie, you are not in a position to ask me anything because I provide that blanket of security that you sleep under every day, right? And so the only thing I think you should say to me is thank you. Never forget those words. But uplift each other. We were born for 7 purposes, in my opinion, by a creative fellowship is one of them. When his disciples asked the man the world knows as Jesus the Christ, whose real name is Yeshua, they asked him, what is the greatest commandment after love God with all your mind, heart, and soul? He said, love your neighbor as you love yourself. For how can you say that you love God who you've never seen and not love your neighbors who you see every day? So fellowship with each other. Fourth and final principle is divine enrichment. After you have aligned yourself properly, after you have empowered yourself, after you have uplifted others, then it just seems to me logical that you should be blessed with abundance beyond your own imagination. And so here we look at the opportunity of all things of cannabis, a wonderful plant with many medicinal values. Some would even indeed say miracle properties, such as fighting against cancer, warring against pain, such as regulating your blood circulation, such as curing eye challenges and the proper working of your eye facility, and on and on and on and on. And now here in the state of New Jersey, there's going to be legislation passed according to the governor-elect and the Senate president very soon that will make New Jersey the first state in the United States of America who will have cannabis legislation. And our own economists at Monmouth College and Rutgers College tell us, and Stevens Institute tell us, that this opportunity in cannabis is going to provide New Jerseyans with a $1.6 billion plus opportunity, and certainly tax dollars and new revenue that we don't have now to help with things like the transportation fund and with the pension deficit, on and on and on. And so in terms of this enrichment, we want to make sure that this enrichment goes across diverse lines. 42% of New Jersey are people of color. There are people with the last name Singh. There are people with the last name Ramirez. There are people with the last name Patel. There's people with African-sounding last names, Arabic-sounding last names. New Jersey is a rainbow, no matter who doesn't like it. And so we want to make sure that this new opportunity benefits and touches all of them. And these two gentlemen here tonight are 2 of the leaders to make sure that there's equity in the cannabis space. Just want to say one final thing. As you might have noticed by my reliance on sacred theology this evening, that I'm a highly spiritual person. Well, go back to the book of Genesis and ask yourself the question, when you think about this plant, isn't it said in the book of Genesis that I will give you all herb-bearing seeds? Think about that for a moment. For all of those people in collars with crosses and black suits that allegedly have molested young boys, think about them telling you, oh, this is not good for you. Oh, this is a gateway drug, and all the rest of that. No, this is moving from unnatural living to natural living. right? I'm from the Caribbean myself, and in the Caribbean, this is laughable to talk about cannabis as a bad thing. This is not even a question. In the Caribbean, we smoke it, we eat it, we drink it, we turn it into skin cream. I mean, this is part of natural living. This is not, this is not even a conversation in Jamaica and Trinidad and Guyana and Antigua. It's not even a conversation. So we understand that we are in the United States of America, and so it's a conversation here. So it's at this point we can step off right into the conversation. I want to welcome Mr. Ronnie Soto of the New Jersey Cannabis Commission, and also Mr. Leo Bridgewater. And your company, Leo, is?
Bridge H2O LLC.
Glad to have you, and you're also affiliated with the commission?
Yeah, I'm also co-founder of the New Jersey Cannabis Commission.
And we're glad to have both of you. So I'm going to ask both of you the same questions and see if we can get to where we need to get so that we can enlighten our audience. First and foremost, and I'm going to start with you, Ronnie, what do you think the unique value of this plant is? I mean, we can go on and on, but what are some of the key things that you think medicinally and otherwise this plant helps mankind with?
I mean, I think the biggest thing, the biggest area where we're seeing the solution is chronic pain. I mean, we see where states that are bringing on board chronic pain as one of the ailments that, gets you involved and gets you in line with the program, that is skyrocketing the program in most of these states. And me personally, I came into the cannabis industry as a patient. Not necessarily a business person. I am a business person by trade, but more of as a consumer and advocate in that space. And it does alleviate it. Most people are dealing with some type of chronic pain. That's why we are seeing that many folks are utilizing opioids, and we see where that slippery slope. So definitely the chronic pain area is a big value for individuals and a natural way to do it. Not where the next day you have all these ailments, or you have a laundry list of ailments that come along with providing that medicinal value.
What would you say, Leo?
I would say the area of post-traumatic stress disorder. When I'm one of the 3 veterans that testified in Senate committee to have PTSD added to the state's medical marijuana program. September of last year, Governor Christie signed our bill into law. And so having post-traumatic stress disorder added to the state's medical marijuana program was huge. And the reason being is that, most people think that PTSD is just a veteran thing, when actually it isn't. We've all probably been touched by PTSD in some way, shape, or form. We just don't realize it. There's direct and indirect. Direct PTSD is I got shot. Indirect PTSD is I saw someone get shot. And so when you look at all of the symptoms of what post-traumatic stress disorder is and how it affects individuals, hypersensitivity to criticism, promiscuous behavior or risky behavior, serious aggression. These are all things, and then easily irritable. These are all signs of post-traumatic stress disorder. So when the state of New Jersey finally, when we got PTSD added to the bill, there were a little over 7,000 people participating in the state's medical marijuana program. Since then, as of today, we're somewhere like around 15,000. So we've doubled. And to be honest with you, in a year to have only doubled, that shows that there's actually way more, there's a lot more educating that needs to take place, particularly when you start looking at how the state is moving into the adult use side.
Well, when we talk about PTSD, though, I want to stay on this point. A case can be made, can it not, that living in the United States,
growing up in the hood is a form of PTSD. Yeah.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. If you look at it like this, particularly when you look at black people, imagine walking along and with your wife and your two kids, and someone snatching you up and putting chains on you, putting chains on your wife, putting chains on your children, and then them putting chains on your children, and then they're raping your wife in front of you, in front of your children, in front of. Where's the counseling for the kids? Where's the counseling for the husband? Where's the counseling for the father? So when you go back to post-traumatic stress disorder, particularly when it comes to African Americans, we're talking generations upon generations of untreated PTSD. There's a reason why when you look at, so it's in our DNA now. We're built like this. And for us to be where we are in today's society, it shows our resiliency is just as strong within our DNA as the actual act of the aggression. Our bodies are not built to sustain constant trauma over and over again. When that happens, that literally changes the wiring in your body. And so when you look at what's happening in the inner cities, when you look at what's happening, all across the world, in particular when it comes to black people, period, a case can really be made that, PTSD is in our DNA. We're talking, at least in the United States, African Americans over 400 years. So, and let's go past the slavery days and let's talk about Jim Crow segregation, Ku Klux Klan and all that stuff, burning crosses. Let's talk about the civil rights era. Let's talk about last year, Black Lives Matter, and they shooting us like it's left and like it's nobody's business.
Yeah, I believe that the nature of life and how this society is organized, there are some threatened people in this country.
Oh yeah,
Facts.
This is the reality. But the other reality is that the resiliency of man and womankind, especially the original people of the earth, we know who those people are. There is something bigger than the trauma, bigger than the attack, bigger than the oppression that resides within us. Just previous to January the 18th of 2017,
Yes, sir.
for the 8 years prior to that, a human being and his family occupied the White House who was a member of that class of people who has sustained the attack that you talked about, Leo. So the miracle is not
graciously too. They held that.
So the miracle is not that we are alive to talk about it. The miracle is that not only are we alive, but we thrive in spite of it.
Yeah, we look good.
Absolutely.
So, this opportunity that we are about to partake in because of efforts that belongs to you guys, I want us to now move our minds towards quantifying it. Right? So we're saying it's a $1.6+ billion opportunity.
Yes.
New money, new revenue for residents of the state of New Jersey. What do you see, Ronnie, as some of the opportunities that will be available in terms of business opportunities to entrepreneurial communities here in the state? And then I'm going to give you a bite at that apple as well.
Sure. I mean, so there's two sides to this cannabis industry. And the more we have conversations with individuals, the more we realize that they don't realize there are two sides to the business. There's the obvious plant touching side, which is what you're referring to in terms of the $1.6 billion. So it can go from cultivation to labs to your standard retail front to if you have culinary experience getting into the edibles field. But the real value that I believe is in the opportunity is the ancillary opportunity. All the businesses that are going to support the actual industry are going to make more money than the industry itself. And we've already seen a case study in Colorado where in 2015 they made $1 billion off the sale of just consumables. However, the ancillary businesses made $1.5 billion. And Colorado's 3 times smaller than we are.
Yes.
We have 9 million, they have 3 million, and we're surrounded by New York, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, a lot of states that don't have this type of revenue stream available to them in the ancillary side. So I think on the ancillary side, whether it's technology, whether it's marketing, and we always tell folks, you can take your current skill set or your current business model, and as soon as this becomes legal, you can plug it into the cannabis industry, and it's just another modality to generate revenue. It's just another stream of revenue for you. So there's a big opportunity on the ancillary side that people aren't really looking at.
Give me an example of an ancillary business.
I'll give you compliance. Making sure that all of the data that you have is HIPAA compliant, making sure that it's in order, making sure that you're actually collecting the data and then using it to generate revenue like every other company in the world does. So for example, you go to a Target, you swipe your card, they're collecting data, and then when you go on Facebook, you see Target, and then when you go in the mail, you see Target. So utilizing these strategies in this space are going to be very important because at some point, the most valuable companies are going to rise to the top. You're not going to be able to have everyone grow cannabis. You're not going to have everyone have the ability to have a dispensary, but they can support those industries so they can grow.
Now, so $1.5 billion on direct production, $1.5 billion on ancillary.
Correct.
That sounds like a lot of jobs. So let me ask you, we were talking a little bit earlier about 18,000 jobs created by this industry in Colorado.
Right.
What do you think, conservatively speaking, Leo, will be the result of the growth and the maturity of this industry in Jersey?
Well, bearing in mind, like, one of the things that you have to, again, to piggyback what Ronnie was saying, the people who made the most money during the California gold rush were the people who didn't even actually touch the gold. They were the people who sold the wheelbarrows, the timber, the dynamite, everything that had nothing to do with touching the gold themselves, but they actually made some money. And so, support. And so, for us, this is ancillary. Just us sitting here talking. The e-commerce side of things, which is what I've noticed that has largely gone ignored. Understanding digital real estate, with domain acquisitions, especially when you're on the ground floor of something that's never been here, that digital real estate is very, very valuable. And so to be able to forecast it and see it coming, and then being right there to take advantage was something that required a bit more foresight and thinking on more of a macro level. And in doing so, that's how we really, Ronnie and I and our other partners, we figured out doing so many events and talking to so many people that the African American community is largely absent from this conversation. And so to all of a sudden be in a state where you're about to go for full adult use and people are wanting to know, that's how they're finding out. We're way more advanced in this conversation than you realize. And so it's going to require some catching up. And fortunately, Ryan and I have been, we've been screaming to the high heavens, this is coming, and when you look at all of that sweat equity that we've put in, it's indicative of that, being able to have that, being able to pass that sense of urgency on. It's been very key.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll come back to you, Ronnie. Do you think that the time is coming where those ancillary businesses may outpace. I mean, we're in the media business here at GEMS TV and the Matthews broadcast. I mean, I could just see a whole lot of commercials on mainstream TV for all of these products. You know, I'm just thinking every Sunday during football season, how many commercials advertising alcoholic beverages at every commercial break.
And they've been here for like 100 years.
Yeah,
well, that's this now. That is where we are right now. Only us. We are the only ones who will ever experience the end of prohibition on cannabis. And so what we do now is 100 years from now, when they're playing the Super Bowl, there'll be commercials, cannabis commercials, and Bridgewater and Soto cannabis has been going on for 100 years, since 2018. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
we're doing that now.
You're gonna definitely see it evolve. I mean, I was just in Las Vegas for the MJ Biz conference, and it was interesting to see how they are positioning cannabis within that community. And I mean, we know Las Vegas is outlandish, but what we're seeing there is that they have it advertised on the side of buses. When I went to a couple of the hotels I went to, I saw dispensaries advertised within the hotel dispensary on their marketing, for their marketing on their televisions all across the hotel. So as it normalizes, we're definitely going to see that start to evolve. Right now, we're not at that point, but states like Nevada they're a little more daring, so they're taking the lead in terms of that. But then you have other states where they don't want it necessarily advertised because they're still wrapping their head around what this actually is. But definitely, it's going to advance to the point where it will be pretty normal to see a commercial about cannabis consumption. But we have some ways to go with that.
Education. Educating.
Yeah, I think education over the next couple of years is going to be a big a pillar for individuals to grow their businesses and understand where this industry is, because a lot of folks that we run into, they'll show up to an event and say, I want to be in the cannabis industry, but they have to also understand that there's a culture, there's a movement, and to really be a part of the cannabis industry is to be a part of that culture and movement and push this ball forward so we can get not only the business side of this correct, but also make sure that we're taking care of the social justice aspects that we've been dealing with over the past 50, 60 years or 100 years since Prohibition.
Hence the formation of the New Jersey Cannabis Commission.
I want you guys to put a pause right there. We're going to come right back, and we're going to take a few calls from your many fans that are calling in. Again, the number is 973-910-3331, 973-910-3331, here on GEMSTV.net. Yes, that's www.gemstv.net, and streaming live on the Matthews broadcast. This is Stan Matthews. We will be right back. This is GEMS TV. This is Stan Matthews. Can I help?
Hello, this is Shalise Rogers. I'm one of the business partners of Ronnie Soto and Leo Bridgewater, and we also met at the Green Saturday event.
I am so glad that you've called in, Shali. What do you think is the unique value of this wonderful plant? And secondly, what do you think are some of the opportunities that you're aware of that people that you know and you can influence in this marketplace can take advantage of as well?
One of the unique values that is very important to me that we should also be focused on within the state of New Jersey is the hemp plant itself. Even just the education about the hemp plant. And I definitely want to expand on this conversation because there's so much that you even spoke about before you went to commercial about, and even at the Green Saturday event, being from Guyana, my mother's from Guyana as well.
Boop, boop.
Yes, I'm a first generation American, but it had rooted in the Caribbean islands. And I definitely do live a very natural, Ayurvedic, herbal way of life. But however, your comment on Caribbean nations kind of being ahead and not necessarily having the same conversation
Right, right.
legally is actually incorrect. In Trinidad, it's very much illegal for cannabis, and I mean the drug trade is booming in the black market. However, that's not the very legal and political side of it. Hemp is legal. When it comes to Jamaica, they do. It's not as taboo. They definitely do acknowledge it for religious purposes, and on the other side of that, they also have decriminalized it and are moving towards recreational use. But so far, they're only medicinal. In Guyana is basically supporting Trinidad's drug trade and the black market. What I believe, not only when it comes to the Caribbean nations, but also here in America, is kind of the miseducation behind a lot of what you're speaking about. And as someone who has a spiritual and also a spiritual Baptist background, so I know you can identify with me in this.
Right.
Is that it's still that there's so much miseducation behind it. Yes, when you look in Genesis, they're saying the Bible says that I've given you every seed, and you should be able to use every seed as long as it's grown. And that is true. However, as Ronnie has said, there's such a big part on education because so many people are using the plant but misusing it, right? Especially if you're going to look at it from a spiritual point of view and a spiritual lens, then there are a lot of people who are using it and is actually bringing them down instead of taking them up. They're not using it responsibly. However, as far as hemp within New Jersey, there's such a big opportunity, especially when you look at it for commodity optimization. You can teach people you can either teach people and give them the tools to be able to take hemp and use it to create over 2,500 products, hair products, makeup, skincare, cars, homes, shoes, clothes. All these things can be customized, and as long as people have sufficient training in these areas, then there's no way for that just creates more jobs, and it just makes hemp a commodity as well.
Well, let me pick up right there, Ms. Rogers. Let me just say this to you. Let me just ask this question to you then. Isn't it true that in one man's hand or one woman's hand, a hammer is a tool to drive in nails, in another person's hand, it's a murder weapon? It's the same hammer, right?
Exactly.
So again, you know,
how this plant should be looked at.
Exactly.
If you're not educated on it, then you can go left with it. And if you are educated, then there are correct ways in order to use it for not only your medicinal purposes, but then if you're a spiritual person, it can definitely help you within that area as well, if used responsibly. But you can, if you look in the hood, where essentially this plant is being used in abundance, and you ask the people who live within those areas, do you even know what you're smoking? Do you know where it came from? Do you know the strain? Do you know the THC levels within this? They can answer half of those questions for you. And a lot of those people are majority of your consumers right now.
that is a reason. That is a good reason for legalization. Wouldn't you agree that through legalization, more education can occur, more awareness can be built, more consciousness can be raised, so that standards can then be employed? I mean, look at the time before Prohibition. People did not have as much information about alcoholic beverages, so they consumed literally anything that could give them that feeling. So I think the case that you're making is a very valid case, but it's a very valid case for legalization. And I'm glad that here in New Jersey, it seems that we've developed the political will to move in that direction.
Well, we're having a conversation. It speaks volumes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes, definitely not against legalization whatsoever. However, I am for responsible legalization. New Jersey is $208 billion in debt. And if they're going to be out here taking all this tax revenue from this incoming industry, then you better make sure that you're actually allocating it exactly where it's supposed to go. You have teacher pensions that are going, that New Jersey doesn't even have the means to pay for right now. They've already dipped in a way in depth in that. You're 50th in the country in debt. So it's so much of it is education. Yes, I do believe that with legalization comes more education, but you already have a medical marijuana program, and what's the education looking like with that?
Well, the problem with the
It's important to just make sure that not only are people being educated, but then especially people of color, Latino people, Black people are being educated correctly, are even aware of the type of opportunities that are available to them, that this is incoming, that you should be. I mean, Leo will always say we speak with a sense of urgency because it's right here, and we don't have much time to prepare. We need to congregate ourselves right now and get things moving before we get left out. Just as we've been left out of the .com industry, out of the hair industry, out of the housing boom, out of so many other different waves that have come our way, but have gone over our heads literally.
Well, let me ask you this final question, and we'll let you run. Thank you so much for calling in, sis. When are we going to see your name on a ballot for an elected office here in the state of New Jersey?
Yes.
Well, I was first moved to New Jersey. That will be coming soon. However, it makes more sense to live in New Jersey at that point. But really, being a politician, it's funny because when you speak to certain people in office, they'll say, "Oh well, I don't have the power to do that. I'm just this. I'm just a mayor. I'm just a councilman." It's like, well, you've been someone else who's not an elected official. You're not just whatever your title is. You actually have some power. So I think that the power is actually within the people and not in the elected officials. We outnumber them substantially, and we have more power together than we do separately. And that's essentially what's the greatest thing about the cannabis movement, is the fact that even Leo says this as well. He calls it strange bedfellows, and it's true. This is the only plant in which you would get people who would normally not even be within the same circles around each other, congregating, laughing, having a conversation, having deep, meaningful conversations. So whether you are pro cannabis or not necessarily on the side of cannabis as well, whether you are on the medicinal side or you're on the recreational side, everybody can still learn something. And from that education, we can be brought together under a common banner, and we can be organized against the very organized laws that are against us as well.
Well, that is the best non-answer I ever heard. So I'm going to take it that you're still thinking about it.
She has work to do.
And I'm glad you called into the Matthews broadcast. Look forward to seeing you again in person very soon. Visit us here at the Matthews broadcast on any Monday or Tuesday. Just let me know that you'd like to come in, and we'd certainly be glad to have you on the platform. Keep listening, okay?
Definitely will.
All right.
And I'll be excited to talk to you about how many other different herbal healings that are available for people, like papaya leaves and Karaili bush. You know all this stuff.
Well, we grew up on it, didn't we?
Exactly. I take it every day.
I certainly will, and we'll talk to you soon, Sister Rogers. If you're out there in the listening audience, give us a call here at 973-910-3331. You can talk to Brother Ronnie and Leo. Leo, as we heard Sister Rogers saying, there are plenty of uses for this plant.
50,000.
Medicinal at 50,000. And so we know for a fact. All right, so we know for a fact that it's a highly valuable, naturally occurring part of our society. What do you see shaping up in this coming year? We've got about 3 minutes left in this segment. What do you see after legislation that you think is going to happen immediately?
Well, we're going to see the formation of the Department of Marijuana Enforcement, the DME, at which point the application process has to be agreed upon and formed. But we also will see, because of, I believe, through the efforts of the New Jersey Cannabis Commission, I believe you will also see a huge uptick in the number of registered LLCs from minority owners. Until there is a legislation, everyone within the sound of my voice, when I talk to you like you an owner. I'm not talking to you about no worker bee stuff. I'm telling you what it means to be an owner. Not only are we talking about facilitating that cultural shift towards how we look at the plant, but we're also talking about facilitating a very massive transference of wealth. And so the logistics behind that in terms of preparing people, getting people into a brand new mindset on how you're going to earn your money. You know, if we are to ever be that 1.6 to 2.2 billion dollar a year industry with another 950 million in projected revenue, in order for us to be that, it's going to require everybody. So whom better to help lead the way than veterans? Because we know success, and the way we've known success is together. And so, you know, folks are needing marching orders, and so the marching orders right now is that, you know, here's what you can do right now, and also being aware of where we are in this space and time, being the first state to possibly be the first state to legislatively legalize cannabis. You know, historically, this industry has not been kind to black and brown people, and we have 28 other examples of history showing us that. No matter what they tell you, look at the numbers. You know, so now this is the first time ever where, because we're going to legislatively not vote on this, but this ain't some ballot referendum. This is a legislative process where we're changing the law. We're actually at the table, and that's huge. That means recognizing all the things that need to happen that we need to start preparing for in the next year, 2 years. We need the Cannabis College of New Jersey. We need the FDA to start getting their butts into gear, because they're going to have to come in on this when it comes to the testing. You know, there's going to be consumption issues that need to come up. There's some zoning. A lot of these municipalities are going to have to start taking a look at their zoning laws and updating them and bringing them, you know, because some of them haven't been touched in generations. All of this goes in is all, you know, bunched up together in that whole thing we call educating people. Because, see, here's the other thing. When we say education in New Jersey, we're mostly talking about children. But in the space of cannabis, when we're talking about education, we're talking about grown adults who just so happen, for the most part in New Jersey, have a somewhat intimate knowledge of the product, but no formal basic education. And so we need that. So the Cannabis College of New Jersey is really what's going to be needed, you know, and all these things are going to require people to do them, which means jobs. Sounds like a good problem to have, especially since, you know, Governor-elect Murphy is not going to know how bad it is until he gets to open up the books on January 15th.
Absolutely. What do you see coming, Ronnie?
Similar to Leo, there's going to be an influx of people of color, minorities getting into the cannabis industry or having a curiosity about the cannabis industry. And what we've done as an example is you need to build an ecosystem. You need to find people within your municipality that are also interested in making this movement go forward and join forces. And if you have difficulty doing that, very simple. Go to the NewJerseyCannabisCommission.com website, put your name in there, where you live, put your information, and we have people constantly contacting us about coming into their cities because mayors are against it, or there's certain organizations coming in that are against it, and arming them with the tools, because at this point everyone needs to be armed with the tools so we can get this to be legal, and then at that point we can really focus on developing businesses in the space.
Yeah, because we have enemies. I'm sorry, we have enemies because the pharmaceutical companies. When you talk cannabis in New Jersey, you're messing with some old money because the pharmaceutical companies have been here for generations.
Absolutely.
When you're talking cannabis in New Jersey, you're messing with some long money because the alcohol industry has been in this state for generations. So recognizing that, you know, what we're fighting, and here's the best part about it is, and I stated this before, they tell on themselves. They can't help it because they don't know the new words. They don't know our language. They don't know our customs and courtesies. They don't know how we talk to each other. You know, when we hear gateway drug, we already know you are from a different year than us.
Yeah, there's a ton of misinformation that you're going to see over the next 2 years, and the important part is to align yourself with organizations that are going to deliver the facts. so you can make a decision as to whether you
Yeah.
actually want to participate in this
Yeah,
business.
you're starting to see that now.
Yes.
We're seeing the redirect. I call it the 52 fake out stories on out there on the internet talking about the bad things. You're now if you use cannabis, you're 3 times more likely to try heroin. If you use prescription opioids, you're 40 times more likely to use heroin. Well, if you're using prescription opioids, you already using heroin because that's heroin in pill form. So it's again, and mind you, the fear mongering. So you're going to see a lot of that. You're going to see if you haven't already, which if all you have to do is look on the internet, and you'll see, in particular, New Jersey. When they talk about children. Well, this is if you cannot treat cannabis like the controlled substance that it is, such as like alcohol, then you shouldn't be consuming it either.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Absolutely. It should all be about responsibility.
Correct.
There is a place where all of us have to use our wisdom to act responsibly
Yes.
with anything. You have to act responsibly with an automobile.
Yes.
Want to say thank you to some folks that have tuned in. Amy Cohen Ruth, thank you for tuning
Yeah.
in.
Hey, Amy.
Kelly Gormley Soto
That's-
said yes,
that's-
Ronnie Soto.
That's the wife.
Nishad Rana said, go Ronnie. Brandon C. says, love the cannabis conversation. Shelly Rogers called in. Samut Scott, Leo Bridgewater, we're watching you do your thing. Sister Rogers went on and on and on with praise. Brandon C. Ronnie's a great role model, and on and on and on. All of you have tuned in. Like the Matthews Broadcast
guys.
Facebook page. Continue to be part of this conversation with us. As I often say, there are 2 types of people in the world: dreamers like you and all of you in this movement, and dream killers. Embrace the first, run like heck from the second. Remember, you cannot finish anything successfully until you start something boldly. So we're going to start this movement and work with these gentlemen. Until the next time, this is Stan Matthews in the Matthews Broadcast. Gratefully to be joined in the company of Ronnie Soto and also the one and only Leo Bridgewater. Tune in next Tuesday, same time, 7 p.m. here in the Matthews Broadcast as we bring you New Jersey's Cannabis Report. Good night. God bless.
Good night.